Hey there, and welcome to Family Revenge. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay with us for every twist and turn. Let's jump right in. I found out I won the lottery standing in line at a goddamn CVS. Scratched the ticket right there on the counter while some guy behind me breathed down my neck about his prescription. $42 million. Dollars. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just shoved the ticket into my coat pocket, walked outside like I'd just bought shampoo, and sat in my car with the door open, staring at my hands like they weren't mine. My name is Dana Keller. I'm 35. I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I've been a regional operations manager at a shipping company for almost a decade. 3 weeks ago, I became a multimillionaire, and I haven't told a single soul. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? No one knows. Not my mom, not my brother Nate, not my boss. Definitely not Greg, my mom's half broke boyfriend, who's always hinting around about needing help with bills. I knew exactly how it would go. The second I told them, they'd act like they loved me more. They'd cry, hug me harder, tell me I deserved it. But every ask after that would come laced in guilt. You can afford it, right? You've got all that money now. That's always been the dynamic in my family. I give, they take. I cover rent when Nate blows his money in Vegas. I pay mom's car insurance when Greg forgets. I lend Leo cash for job hunting that turns into him playing Xbox for 3 months. So I kept quiet, went into the city, and met with a financial advisor who looked like he hadn't smiled since 2002. He said one thing that stuck. The second you tell someone, it's over. That's when something clicked. I realized I didn't just want to protect the money. I wanted to test something. I wanted to see what my life would look like if I had nothing to offer anyone. No favors, no money, no usefulness, just me. No strings, no leverage. Not out of revenge, just clarity. Because I needed to know, when the giving stopped, who would still show up? I started making a list, 7 people, all family or close enough. I didn't tell Christina, my closest friend, until days later. Even then, I didn't say what I was planning. But I'd made up my mind. I went home and typed the lie out like it was a job application. I lost my job after a back injury at work. Insurance claim is pending. I'm behind on rent and need $6,000 to stay afloat. Just until the paperwork clears, it wasn't far off reality. I had pulled my back last year moving freight when our warehouse was short-staffed. I had used vacation days to recover, and I knew the system well enough to sound legit. The number wasn't random either. 6 grand was low enough not to feel like a scam, but high enough that it would sting. Just uncomfortable enough to show who was willing to stretch and who'd hit me with a smile and an excuse. I made the list that night. 7 people. Mom and Greg, my brother Nate, my cousin Leo, Uncle Ray, Sylvia, my old neighbor who used to say I was like family, Denise, Dad's ex, who still sent Christmas cards, and Aunt Lynette. Every single one of them had leaned on me at some point. I stared at the names like they were strangers, wrote them out in Sharpie on a yellow legal pad, and circled them one by one. Not dramatic, just methodical. I wasn't testing them to be cruel. I didn't want anyone to fail. I just wanted to know. Christina and I were out getting coffee when I told her what I was planning. You sure you want to go there? She asked, not even looking up from her cup. I have to, I said. She shook her head slowly. You know what happens when you poke holes in a boat? What? You find out fast if anyone else brought a bucket, or if they're just going to sit there and watch you sink. I let out a short laugh. That's the point. You're going to be disappointed, she said. I'm just saying it now. I already am, I told her. I just haven't proven it yet. That night, I practiced the voice I'd use. Not desperate, just flat, worn down. The kind of tired that doesn't cry. It just goes quiet. I needed to sound like someone who still had pride but was out of options. I'd say it like I was embarrassed to ask, like it hurt to even pick up the phone. I knew them well enough to know what tone would get through. Then I wrote out what they'd probably say, word for word, like a messed up script. Mom, oh, honey, I wish we could, but Greg just bought the hot tub. Greg, fixed income, you know how it is. Nate, damn, that sucks. I just spent a ton on that Vegas trip, Leo. I'll pray for you, cuz, seriously, maybe in a few weeks, Uncle Ray. Let me check on something and get back to you. Sylvia, I can send a little, maybe $100. Denise, that's rough. I could do $200 just to hold you over. Lynette, I didn't write her line. I honestly didn't know what she'd say. I sat there staring at the blank space under her name. If anyone was going to come through, it'd be her. Maybe. She was never flashy, never nosy, just steady. But I wasn't betting on it. I wasn't betting on any of them. Next day, I pulled together a burner email account, changed my voicemail to sound a little more down bad, and shut off social media. I didn't want them checking anything. I needed the story airtight. I even filled out a fake disability claim form and left it on my kitchen counter, just in case anyone showed up. I wasn't half-assing this. I was walking into it like a lab experiment, controlled variables, measurable results. Christina texted me around midnight. You really doing this? Yup, God help them. I smiled at the screen, then turned it face down. Next morning, I picked up the phone and started dialing the first name on the list. Let the test begin. I dialed my mom first. Figured I'd rip the Band-Aid off. She picked up on the third ring, voice already distracted. Hey, honey, everything okay? I got into the story, back injury, lost my job, insurance dragging its feet. Said I was behind on rent and needed help to keep the place. I kept my voice low, tired, like I'd been up all night worrying. She didn't even ask what happened, just went quiet for a beat, then said, Oh, babe, we just put in a down payment on the new hot tub. The one Greg's been wanting? It's not a good time financially, I didn't say anything. Then Greg's voice came through in the background. Who is it? It's Dana, she muttered, half covering the phone. Next second, he was on speaker. Hey, kiddo. Sorry to hear about your troubles. We're on a fixed income now. You know how it is. Fixed income? They both work full-time at the hospital. He drives Uber on the side. I kept it short. All right, I get it. Mom sighed. Maybe next month we can... It's fine, I cut in. Take care. I hung up and wrote it down. Mom, hot tub. Greg, fixed income lie. Then I called Nate, my younger brother. He was the one I'd bailed out the most. Yo, he said, sounding like he just woke up. Hey, listen. Something happened at work. I messed up my back. They let me go while my claim's still processing. I'm behind on rent. He cut me off. Damn, that sucks. For real. But I'm kind of tapped right now. Tapped? I asked. Yeah, I dropped like $3,000 last weekend in Vegas. Spur of the moment trip. Wasn't supposed to, but, you know. He trailed off like I was supposed to laugh. You can't help it all? He paused. Not $6,000. No. I mean, maybe in a couple weeks if I get paid from that job with Danny. But it's tight right now. I didn't press. I just wrote it down. Nate, Vegas. He texted me 10 minutes later. Sorry again. Hope it works out. No offer. No follow-up. Next was Leo, my cousin. We used to be close. Sleepovers, riding bikes, family barbecues. Hey, stranger, he answered. I gave him the same story, kept the delivery calm. He clicked his tongue. That's rough, man. Sucks when life hits like that. So, I paused. Is there any way you could help? Just until things clear up? He exhaled like I'd asked for a kidney. Thing is, I'm between gigs right now. I mean, maybe in a few weeks? Not sure yet, I waited. Nothing came. Just that empty pause where a real answer should have lived. I'd definitely pray for you, though, he added. Like, seriously, I'll put you on our prayer board. Thanks, I said, voice flat. Appreciate it. I hung up and added it to the list. Leo, between gigs, prayer board. I didn't expect them to empty their bank accounts. I wasn't asking for a miracle. I was asking the same way I'd help them. No guilt, no pressure. Just, can you? Will you? And the answer, every time, was no, wrapped in some polite version of not my problem. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the list. 3 down, 4 to go. My pen hovered over the page as I tried to keep it cold, clinical. But I felt it. Each no sat heavier than the last, like bricks. Not because of the money, but because I'd already done it for them. More than once. I took a deep breath, steadied my hand, and drew a line under Leo's name. Then I circled the next one, Uncle Ray. Time to keep going. I dialed Uncle Ray next. He picked up with that fake energy he always had, like we talked all the time. Well, damn, Dana. It's been a minute. Yeah, I know it's out of the blue. I told him the same thing I told the others. Injury, job gone, rent due, claim still pending. He clicked his tongue a few times. That's awful, sweetheart. You always were a hard worker. Let me look into some things, all right? Okay, I might have something I can move around. Give me a day or two, I thanked him and hung up. That was 6 days ago. He never called back. No text, no voicemail. Just silence. I didn't chase. I wrote it down. Ray. Said he'd look into it. Didn't. Then I called Sylvia. She answered on the first ring. Dana. Oh my goodness, how are you? She sounded genuinely happy to hear from me, which threw me for a second. When I was a kid, she used to bring over cookies on school nights and called me her bonus niece. I explained the situation. There was a pause. Then she said, well, I could send over maybe 100. Would that help? I told her anything helped. She said, great. I also saw a few warehouse jobs on Craigslist. I can forward them to you if you want. They're not glamorous, but they're something. She didn't ask what the injury was or how I was coping. Just gave me surface-level comfort like a coupon clipped from a flyer. I told her I appreciated it, hung up, and jotted it down. Sylvia, $100 and Craigslist leads. Denise was next, my dad's ex. She used to buy me books for Christmas and never forgot a birthday. Dana, honey, she said, sounding winded. Wow, haven't heard your voice in forever. Yeah, sorry for calling out of the blue. I'm in kind of a jam. She listened through the whole story without interrupting. I'll give her that. When I finished, she said, I can Venmo you 200 to hold you over for a bit. Would that help? It wouldn't, but I said thanks anyway. Wish I could do more, she added. I could tell she felt proud of herself, like she'd done her part. I opened my notes again. Denise, $200. Wish I could do more. None of it felt real. It felt like everyone was tossing pennies into a well and walking off before the splash. No one asked how I was holding up. No one asked if I needed a place to stay or if I had food in the fridge. No one asked anything beyond the minimum. I sat back in my chair and looked at the list. 6 names were crossed off. 6 people who'd smiled at me over dinners and birthdays, who'd leaned on me without hesitation. Now it was my turn, and all I got were polite brush-offs, pity money, and thoughts and prayers. The only name left was Lynette, my aunt on my dad's side. Quiet, always showed up to things early, never asked for anything. I stared at her name a long time. Then I circled it. Hard. I hit call on Lynette's name and braced myself. She answered before the first ring finished. Hey, sweetie. I didn't waste time. Something happened at work. Hurt my back? They let me go. Insurance is still sorting things out. I'm behind on rent and I need $6,000 to hold me over. She didn't even pause. I've got you, she said. I'll get it to you by tomorrow. I blinked at the phone. Wait, what? Lynette. Nope, she cut in. I'm serious. Don't start with the I hate asking thing. Family shows up. You've always been there for us. I opened my mouth again. She kept going. And if rent falls through, my spare room's clean. You can stay here as long as you need. Lynette. No arguing. I already made the decision. That was it. No excuses, no delays, no, maybe next week. She didn't ask how I ended up in that spot. She didn't say, you sure there's no one else? She just said yes. The next morning, we met at a diner halfway between our towns, same place we always went for birthdays and rainy Sundays. She was sitting in the booth when I walked in, reading the laminated menu, even though she always ordered the same thing. 2 eggs, bacon, rye toast, black coffee. Hey, kiddo, she said, smiling like I hadn't just called begging for help. I slid into the booth. You didn't have to come all this way. Of course I did. She handed me an envelope, plain and thick. It's all there. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at it sitting on the table next to the salt shaker. She sipped her coffee, calm as ever. I looked down and noticed her shoes. The same worn-out black flats she's had forever. I knew they pinched her feet. She never said anything, just walked like they didn't. You shouldn't have, I said quietly. She shrugged. It's money. Money comes and goes. You don't. She didn't ask who else I'd called. Didn't ask why I didn't go to my mom or Nate first. She just helped. No guilt, no lecture. After we ate, she insisted on paying. I tried to argue, but she waved me off with that look that meant, don't you dare. Outside, it had started drizzling. She walked me to my car like she always did when I was younger, arm linked through mine, like I was 12 again. Promise me one thing, she said as I opened my door. What's that? If things get worse, you call me. Not next week, not after it's too late. Right when it happens, I nodded. I promise. Then she smiled. Good, because I'm not going to let you fall through the cracks, Dana. Not on my watch, I got in the car and closed the door. She waited until I pulled out before heading to her own. When I got home, I finally opened the envelope. Full 6 grand. Cash. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at it, heart pounding like I'd just run a mile. She didn't even blink. And I knew. She didn't have 6 grand lying around. She'd probably emptied her savings or moved bills around to pull it off. But she did it anyway. I pulled the list out of my drawer, and I drew a thick, solid check mark next to her name. I left the envelope on the table for hours. Didn't even touch it after I opened it. It just sat there, thick, plain, heavy. Heavier than it should have been. Every time I walked past it, I felt a mix of shame and clarity. Shame because she shouldn't have been the one to come through. Clarity because she was. I picked up the list and read it all over again. Not just the names, but the notes I wrote next to them. Every excuse, every delay, every time someone took the easy way out. Mom, hot tub. Greg, fixed income lie. Nate, Vegas. Leo, prayer board. Ray, ghosted. Sylvia, Craigslist jobs. Denise, to hold you over. None of them had flat out said no, but none of them really said yes either. They just did the bare minimum to sleep at night. What hit hardest wasn't even the money. It was the silence. The way no one asked how I was doing. The way no one said, come over, or what do you need besides rent? And maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. I'd seen it building for years. The way I'd show up, fix things, get nothing back. I kept doing it because I thought that's what family meant. But that illusion shattered fast when I flipped the roles. I'd paid Nate's rent twice, not once. And both times he forgot to pay me back. I loaned Leo money during his so-called startup phase. I bought Greg a tire when he said he couldn't get to work. I'd been the fallback, the helper, the one they leaned on. And now, when I asked for one real thing, they folded. I didn't feel angry, just done. Like a rope had finally snapped inside me. It didn't even feel like loss. It felt like the fog cleared. I pulled out my phone and called my financial advisor. Ready for phase 2? He asked as soon as he answered. Yeah, I said. Let's do it. You still keeping it quiet? For now, I told him. But I want them to see what their choices really meant. I want it to be obvious, not in words, in actions. Got it, he said. I'll prep everything on my end. You'll want to move carefully? I'm not going public, I said. I just want them to feel it. He didn't push, just said he'd follow my lead. I hung up and stared at the list one last time. The money didn't change me. The silence did. They'd shown me who they were. And now I'd show them who I was without them. No shouting, no scenes, just truth, right in front of their faces. I grabbed the envelope and slid it into the drawer next to the list. Then I picked up my keys. Time to plan the next move. I parked 2 folding tables in the living room and laid out a half-hearted spread. Store-brand cookies, grocery fruit tray, 2 pots of coffee, some paper napkins. Nothing warm, nothing cozy, just enough for them not to talk. One by one, they showed up. Mom came in first, carrying a Tupperware of pasta salad like we were celebrating something. Greg followed behind her, all awkward hands and fake smiles. Nate came next, sunglasses on inside the house like he thought it made him look cool. Leo drifted in after him, already on his phone. Then Ray, then Sylvia, then Denise, with a scented candle like that made up for anything. Lynette showed up last, quiet, a little cautious. I met her at the door with a nod and a tight smile. We all sat in the living room, circling snacks no one really touched. The vibe was off and they felt it. That subtle, polite tension when people aren't sure if they're about to be thanked or scolded. I let them settle. Let the fake laughs happen. Let Mom ask how I was feeling. And Leo mentioned something about, we should do this more often. Then I stood up. They quieted down. Every head turned. I just wanted to give everyone an update, I said. Things are better now. I found some consulting work. Part-time, but it's enough. The rent's sorted, back's healing. Insurance finally pulled through, shoulders relaxed, all around the room. A few people even smiled. Nate leaned back and crossed his arms like he was glad the whole thing was over. I let that calm sit there for one long breath. Then I said, but I remember who offered help when I needed it. Silence. Mom shifted in her seat. Greg scratched his neck. Ray cleared his throat. Well, things have been tight for everybody lately? I kept going. Only one person said yes, no hesitation, no excuses, just, I've got you. Sylvia opened her mouth like she was gonna speak. I didn't let her. Lynette. Everyone turned. She sat there, hands folded in her lap, calm, not smug, just still. She didn't ask questions. Didn't tell me to wait. didn't send links to Craigslist or offer a couple hundred to hold me over. She showed up. She handed me an envelope and said, "Family shows up." Nate let out a breathy laugh. "Okay, but come on. Some of us are broke, not heartless." I looked right at him. It wasn't about money. He raised his eyebrows. Then what was it about? "Action," I said. "Care. The choice to do something when I needed it. That's all. One person stepped up. Everyone else either vanished, stalled, or tossed me crumbs so they could feel good about themselves." Denise sat up straighter. "I sent what I could. You didn't say how bad it was." "You didn't ask," I said. "None of you did." Sylvia's voice cracked. "I thought the 100 would help." I nodded. "I know. That's the problem." Greg spoke for the first time. "If we'd known it was some kind of test." "It wasn't," I cut in. "It was my life. My bills, my back, my roof. And for once, I asked for something, one real thing. And most of you couldn't give it without conditions or excuses." No one looked at Lynette. I turned toward her. "Thank you," I said, clear, loud, for being the only one who didn't make it about themselves. She didn't say anything, just gave a small nod, like it wasn't a big deal. No one clapped, no one spoke. They just sat there, fidgeting, pretending to sip coffee. I let the silence fill the room like smoke, thick and undeniable. Then I picked up the empty cookie tray and walked it to the kitchen. They couldn't get out of the house fast enough. Nate was first. Sunglasses back on, mumbling, "All right, well, good luck with everything." Greg and Mom slipped out behind him, arms locked like they'd rehearsed it. She didn't meet my eyes. Leo patted my shoulder like I was a coworker he barely knew. Sylvia gave me one of those soft, fake smiles that says nothing. Denise left her candle behind. Ray avoided a goodbye altogether. Lynette stayed. She was already stacking empty paper plates when I came back from the kitchen. "You didn't have to call them out like that," she said, handing me a cup. "I did." I dropped it in the trash. They needed to hear it. She didn't argue, just kept clearing like it was any normal day. I could feel the words pushing at the back of my throat. "I won the lottery. You helped me when I didn't need it. I owe you everything." But they stuck there. It still wasn't the right moment. We worked in silence until the table was empty and the coffee had gone cold. She reached for her purse. "You okay?" I nodded. "Better than I've been in years." She smiled, tired but solid. "Good. Don't disappear, okay?" "I won't." She hugged me once, then left without saying another word. The next morning, I drove out to her place with a check in my coat pocket. Paid off, in full. No warning, no announcement, just dropped it in her mailbox with a handwritten note tucked underneath. For the only one who showed up. Then I got in my car and drove away before she came outside. I didn't need her to say thank you. That wasn't the point. The point was, she gave me something no one else had. Not just money, but belief. Immediate, unquestioning belief. She'd have given me her last dollar and her bed if I needed it. The rest of them, they gave me their limits, their terms, their comfort zones. By the end of the week, my phone started lighting up. "Hey, can we talk? That thing you said, I didn't know you felt that way. I want to explain. Let's grab lunch sometime." Every message sat there with the same energy. Guilt dressed up like concern. I didn't open a single one. They could sit in silence now, same as I did when they had their shot. That door wasn't just closed, I'd welded it shut. And I was finally okay with that. About a year later, I packed up my apartment, handed the keys to a rental manager who barely looked up from her clipboard, and drove 4 hours east to a little coastal town outside Rehoboth. The kind of place with mom-and-pop diners and porches with rocking chairs. Nothing flashy, just enough space and quiet to breathe again. I bought a modest 3-bedroom near the bay, painted the walls myself, picked out furniture that didn't look like a showroom exploded. Clean, simple, mine. Lynette visited a few weeks after I settled in. She walked through the house like she was proud of it, sat at my kitchen counter, watching the waves through the window like she couldn't believe it was real. She didn't say a word about the check in the mailbox, but when I asked how her back was doing, she grinned and said, "Surgery went great. I'm walking like I'm 20 again." She'd moved into her own dream, a 2-story brick house with a fenced garden and a screened-in porch. Her roses were already blooming, and she finally had the clawfoot tub she used to point out in catalogs. She deserved all of it. I stayed in logistics, remote contract work, low stress, decent pay, no drama. But I also started something new, a nonprofit, for laid-off warehouse workers. People like me. People like the guys I used to supervise, who got tossed aside when the company downsized and never got a second look. We helped with job placement, resume building, transportation. No red tape, no corporate fluff. It was the first thing I'd done in years that felt like it actually mattered. And no, none of my family knew about the money. Not the lottery, not the house, not the nonprofit. They didn't deserve to know. But a few still tried to hang on. Nate called on my birthday, said he missed me, asked what I was up to. These days. Didn't say the word sorry, but it hung in the air between every line. Mom texted me a blurry photo of a pumpkin pie she made in November. Said, thinking of you. Want to come by next weekend? Leo left a voicemail around New Year's. Said, hope things turned around for you. I'm doing better now too. Maybe we can catch up sometime. I kept my answers short. Polite, but cold. Thanks. Been busy. Hope you're well too. Appreciate the invite. Maybe another time. Glad to hear that. Take care. No visits, no explanations, no updates. I didn't need to scream at them or write some dramatic letter about what they did wrong. They knew. You could hear it in the way they talked now. Careful, soft, like they didn't want to trigger something, but it was already triggered. You can't unsee the truth once it's out in the open. They'd shown me exactly who they were when I had nothing. And I knew now, they were never really my people. I was just the one who made their lives easier. Until I didn't. Now, I lived for me. And the one person who never needed a test to prove she cared. Lynette and I sat out on her back porch, both of us barefoot, sipping iced tea in mismatched lawn chairs. Sun was low behind the trees, cicadas going full blast. It had been almost a year. I looked at her, then out at the yard. Her roses blooming against the new fence, the hammock still swaying from her afternoon nap. I need to tell you something, I said. She set her glass down, turned to face me. Okay, I won the lottery. She didn't laugh, didn't blink. 42 million. Scratched the ticket in a CVS parking lot. Set up a trust. Told no one. Not even you. She stared at me, silent for a beat. Then she said, you always did carry more than you let on. I tested everyone. I lied about needing help. Just to see, I figured, she said softly. Didn't care. I shook my head. The house, your surgery, the garden, that was the least I could do. She waved her hand like she was shooing a fly. What mattered was the truth. And you gave me that too. We sat for a while, not saying much. Wind moved through the yard. She leaned back in her chair, eyes half closed, completely at peace. I felt it too. Not pride, not guilt. Just that clean, quiet relief when something finally lands right. Inside her house, next to the kitchen door, was a corkboard covered in old Polaroids and grocery lists. She'd pinned the note I left with the check right at the center, for the only one who showed up. I never asked her why. I didn't have to. The others? They were still out there, still calling every now and then, circling like dogs sniffing for scraps. But I stopped picking up. That part of my life was done. I still had the list. Folded, tucked in a box somewhere in the back of my closet. But I didn't need it anymore. The real win wasn't the money. It was knowing who would have stood by me, even when I had nothing. I lifted my glass, clinked hers. To the only one who passed the test, I said. She smiled. Damn right. And we just sat there, watching the sky turn gold.